In the village of Olumide, nestled between the dense emerald forests and golden savannas of West Africa, there lived a girl named Zaria. Her skin was the color of rich ebony, deep and luminous, and her eyes held a spark that seemed almost defiant. From the day she was born, the village elders noticed that Zaria did not cry. Not when she stubbed her toes, not when the monkeys stole fruit from her hand, not even when the scorching sun made the river waters unbearable. They whispered, "She is the child of the spirits, for mortals always cry." Her mother, Amina, worried for her daughter. "A child must shed tears," she said gently. "It is how the heart speaks." But Zaria would only look back with unwavering calm. "I will never cry," she whispered, the words sealing themselves into her fate. School was never easy for Zaria. Children mocked her cold demeanor, calling her stoneheart and spiritless. Boys would push her into the mud, girls would pull her hair, and yet Zaria did not shed a single tear. Instead, she observed. She noticed patterns in human behavior that adults and children alike overlooked. She saw the sorrow hidden in laughter, the greed masked by generosity, and the fear people tried to bury beneath bravado. One evening, after being thrown into the river by a jealous boy, she trudged home silently, dripping wet, her braid tangled and skin scratched. Her mother tended to her wounds, muttering prayers, yet Zaria remained unmoved. That night, she sat under the great iroko tree behind her house, the moonlight brushing against her skin, and whispered into the wind, "I will never cry. I will be stronger than sorrow itself." Unbeknownst to her, the iroko tree listened. Ancient spirits dwelled within its massive trunk, watching the girl who defied the natural order. They had been waiting for someone like her for centuries, a child untouched by tears, capable of seeing truths others ignored. It was market day in Olumide, and the air was thick with the aroma of roasted yam, fresh kola nuts, and the smoke of wood-fired clay pots. Merchants called out to potential buyers. Children ran with colorful beads in their hands, and drummers performed a lively rhythm that echoed across the village square. Zaria, carrying a small basket of herbs her mother had gathered, walked through the crowd unnoticed. She preferred the shadows, moving with the precision of a cat. Her dark eyes caught every detail: the merchant who pocketed coins before giving change, the old woman hiding a smile at a prank, the way the merchant boy hesitated before swiping an extra yam. Then she noticed him, a stranger she had never seen before. He wore a cloak that shimmered like liquid midnight, and a mask carved from dark wood with eye slits that glowed faintly. Where others saw mystery, Zaria felt recognition. Something about this man stirred the ancient instincts in her chest. "Child of no tears," he said without preamble, his voice like wind rustling dry leaves. "I have come for you." Zaria's heartbeat quickened, but she did not cry. "Why me?" she asked, her voice steady, betraying none of the tremor that quivered within. "You carry the curse and the blessing," the stranger replied. "The spirits have marked you. You will journey to the realm beyond the river to face trials no mortal dares. Only if you endure without tears will you uncover your destiny." The crowd around them seemed to disappear. The drummer's rhythm slowed, the market calls dimmed, and Zaria felt the weight of eyes from invisible beings. The stranger extended her hand, carved from shadows and dust. Zaria hesitated, then remembered her oath to herself. She would never cry, she would never succumb. Taking his hand, she felt herself lifted, the market melting into darkness, the ground replaced by a winding path through dense, otherworldly forests where the trees whispered secrets older than any human memory. The forest was alive, trees bent and twisted, as if they had souls, their leaves murmuring songs in languages Zaria almost recognized but could not fully comprehend. Glowing insects hovered like tiny lanterns, and strange creatures with translucent skin observed her from the shadows. The stranger led her to a clearing where a pool of water reflected a sky filled with stars, though it was still day in her village. "Here begins your first trial," he said. "You must drink from the pool, but it will show you the greatest sorrows of your life. To survive, you must feel them, yet shed no tear. One drop will summon the spirits to consume you." Zaria approached the pool. Memories of ridicule, loneliness, and betrayal surfaced. She saw the faces of those who had hurt her, heard their laughter echoing in her mind. Pain threatened to break her composure. Her lips trembled, but she remembered her promise. She breathed deeply, focusing not on anger, but on understanding. When she drank, the water revealed visions not just of her past, but of the village itself, the corruption, the greed, and the hidden sorrows that no one admitted aloud. And yet she felt a strange clarity, as if the world had unfolded its secrets to her alone. Emerging from the pool, the stranger nodded. "Few see this truth and remain untouched by tears. You are not ordinary, Zaria, but this is only the beginning."
Air of the forest clinging to her skin like a second shadow. The stranger remained silent, his presence both comforting and unnerving. The trees seemed to lean closer, their whispers growing louder, almost forming words. The pool had already shown her visions of pain, but now the forest demanded something else. Fear. Ahead, a path formed, lined with roots twisted like serpents, and the canopy above darkened unnaturally, blocking the sun. From the shadows, faint giggles and cries echoed, distorted and unrecognizable. The stranger's voice cut through the hum of the forest. "You must walk this path alone. The forest will project your deepest fears. Only if you confront them without shedding a tear will you survive. Fail, and your soul will be trapped here forever." Zaria's chest tightened. Fear had always been a stranger to her, yet now it came in forms she had never imagined. A spectral version of herself appeared, crying, begging her to give in. Behind it, she saw images of her parents, her friends, and the villagers, all falling into danger and despair, all crying out for her. Her first instinct was to look away, to close her eyes, but she remembered her oath. "I will never cry." Taking a deep breath, Zaria stepped forward. The ghostly images advanced, hurling accusations and mockery. "You are heartless. You cannot love. You are alone," they screamed. Her knees trembled, but she forced herself to walk. Her gaze fixed on the path ahead, each step measured and steady. The trees began to groan, as if the forest itself was testing her resolve. Vines lashed at her arms, thorny branches tore her clothes, yet she did not flinch. Each time she felt a tear sting her eye, she blinked and pushed it away, grounding herself in the knowledge that strength is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Hours, or perhaps minutes, time had no meaning here, passed. The visions became more violent, more intimate. She saw her own funeral, the villagers speaking her name in sorrow, imagining a life cut short before it had begun. Pain lanced through her heart, sharper than any blade, but she gritted her teeth and whispered into the forest, "I will never cry." Finally, the forest fell silent. The shadows melted into mist, the twisted roots softened, and the spectral self bowed before her. You have endured the trial of fear, the stranger said, his voice almost proud. Few have walked this path and returned with their hearts untouched by tears. You are becoming what you were always meant to be. After leaving the forest path, Zaria and the stranger arrived at a river that shimmered under a ghostly silver light. The water moved in unnatural ways, curling upward like smoke before settling into a perfect mirror surface. The stranger turned to her and said, "This river is alive. It whispers truths, confessions, and hidden desires. Drink from it, and you will hear the secrets of every soul who has ever passed by this land. But beware, the truth can shatter hearts. You must listen, without crying, without despair, or you will lose yourself." Zaria knelt at the water's edge. At first she heard nothing, only the soft lapping of liquid against stone. Then, gradually, the whispers began. They were faint at first. A mother mourning her child, a trader lamenting stolen goods, a young girl confessing love she could never express. The river carried decades of voices, some bitter, some joyful, all tinged with regret. As she leaned closer, the whisper sharpened, focusing on her own life, her classmates who mocked her. They were children trapped by fear of failure, repeating patterns taught by their parents. The villagers who ignored her mother's warnings, they were blinded by habit and ignorance. Each revelation struck like a hammer, yet she felt no tears, only understanding. The river shimmered, approving her words. From its depths, a glowing fish leapt, transforming into a golden medallion that floated into Zaria's hands. "This is the emblem of vision," the stranger explained. "It will guide you to hidden knowledge and reveal what others cannot see. But remember, its power is useless to the weak-hearted. You must walk your path with courage, compassion, and unwavering resolve." As they left the riverbank, Zaria felt an unfamiliar warmth blooming within her chest. She understood that the trials were only beginning. She was being shaped not just for survival, but for a destiny that could change the world. Her resolve strengthened. "I will never cry. I will face every trial, no matter how impossible." The forest path finally led Zaria and the stranger to a village, unlike any she had seen. It was called Iraq, hidden deep in a valley surrounded by jagged cliffs and thick mist. The houses were carved from stone and timber, yet they seemed almost alive, with walls that shifted slightly as if breathing. Lanterns glowed with a soft, unnatural light, illuminating streets empty of children and bustling with adults
Zaria's
who
first
moved
impression
like
was one of
shadows.
unease. Every villager she passed bowed without speaking. Their faces were pale, eyes hollow, and hands tightly clenched, as if holding onto invisible burdens. The stranger whispered, "This village is cursed by silence. The people have forgotten how to speak their truths. Only one who walks without tears can uncover what binds them." A figure emerged from a doorway, a tall woman draped in flowing indigo robes. Her eyes, though tired, were sharp and penetrating. "You are the girl who will never cry," she said, voice echoing unnaturally. "The spirits sent you. Perhaps you can see what we cannot face ourselves." Zaria nodded, though fear trembled in her chest. She had learned to confront the impossible without tears. "I am here to understand, not to judge," she replied softly. The woman led her to the central square, where a massive stone fountain stood, water black as obsidian. "This fountain holds the secrets of our village," the woman explained. "Generations ago, a spirit of greed entered our homes. One by one, it took away our voices. No one can cry. No one can laugh freely.
It thrives on our suppressed emotions. If you fail to break it, it will spread beyond these walls. Zaria approached the fountain, feeling its oppressive energy pressing against her chest. Her instincts told her that this was a test of perception and courage. She reached out, touching the water's surface. The liquid pulsed under her fingertips, showing her visions, quarrels over property, betrayal among families, sorrow hidden behind polite smiles. Each scene threatened to overwhelm her with grief, but she recalled her promise: I will never cry. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply, and allowed herself to observe without judgment. Slowly, she began to speak aloud what she saw, naming each sorrow, each hidden act of cruelty and injustice. You cannot hide your fears behind silence. Her words acted like a balm on the village. The shadows began to shimmer, loosening their grip. Slowly, the villagers raised their eyes, blinking as if waking from a long dream. By the time night fell, the square was alive with whispered conversation, hesitant laughter, and tears. Real tears, unafraid, released freely. The curse was broken, but Zaria knew this was only a fragment of the trials she had to face. The stranger led Zaria from Ireke toward a towering mountain shrouded in mist and clouds. Its jagged peaks pierced the sky, and a cold wind whipped around them, carrying faint echoes of voices that seemed both familiar and alien. This is the mountain of echoes, the stranger said. It tests the heart and the mind. Every step you take will confront your inner doubts and temptations. Few emerge unbroken, few without tears. Zaria's resolve remained unshaken. She stepped onto the rocky trail, the wind tugging at her clothes and hair. The first echoes were whispers of self-doubt, tiny voices that mimicked her mother's admonishments and her classmates' taunts. You are not enough. You cannot face this. She pushed forward, repeating her mantra silently. I will never cry. Hours passed. The trail became steeper, the air thinner, and the echoes louder. Some voices turned into vivid illusions, her grandmother, her mother, and friends, all asking her to abandon the journey, to cry and surrender. Zaria felt an ache in her chest, the first pang of true longing, yet she did not cry. She closed her eyes, letting the voices wash over her, observing them without yielding. At the summit, she found a cavern guarded by a figure draped in shadow. Its eyes glowed like molten gold. Child who does not cry, why do you resist the natural flow of emotion? Do you not fear loneliness, grief, or despair? Zaria stepped forward, her voice steady despite the storm around her. I do not reject emotion. I embrace it. But tears will not guide me. Understanding will. Compassion will. Courage will. I will never cry because my strength lies not in surrender, but in mastery over sorrow. The shadow regarded her for what felt like eternity. Then slowly it bowed, melting into the cavern floor. From within the darkness, a glowing crystal emerged, pulsating with an inner light. The stranger explained, "This is the heart of resolution. It reflects the strength within you and will guide you through the trials yet to come. But beware, Zaria, for power attracts attention. Dark eyes will watch you, and those who wish to corrupt your spirit will test you mercilessly." As Zaria held the crystal, a shiver ran down her spine. She knew her journey was far from over. The mountain of echoes had not broken her, but it had awakened something deeper, a recognition that the world was more dangerous, more intricate, and more magical than she had ever imagined. And she would need every ounce of her courage to face what lay ahead. After descending the mountain of echoes, Zaria and the stranger entered a vast plain where the wind never ceased. The grasses swayed in perpetual motion, forming waves that seemed almost alive. The stranger said nothing as they walked, allowing the wind
Softly,
itself to
a
speak.
hiss at the edges of her hearing. Why do you resist sorrow? Why do you deny your nature? The voice carried hundreds of tones, as though the wind spoke the collective grief and joy of every living being in the world. Zaria's eyes narrowed, but her resolve remained steadfast. I will never cry. As they walked deeper, the wind intensified, forming ethereal figures around her. Some appeared as lost children, others as animals she had known in the forest, and some as faces she recognized from her village, all whispering doubts and fears. You are too young. You cannot bear this burden. You will fail, they said in overlapping voices that made her chest tighten. Zaria closed her eyes and drew from the lessons of the river, the forest, and the mountain. She focused on understanding, on observing, without succumbing to panic or despair. Her heartbeat became a drum, steady and unwavering. She began to speak softly, naming each fear aloud. I see you. You exist, but you will not control me. The wind swirled violently, lifting sand and debris, forming a tornado around her. Yet Zaria did not flinch. She held her ground, letting the wind reveal truths without breaking her composure. Hours, or perhaps moments in this timeless plain, passed until the tornado collapsed, leaving her standing in a calm golden light that stretched across the horizon. The stranger finally spoke. Few can endure the whispering winds without tears. You have not only survived, Zaria, but you have also grown. The wind is alive with the sorrow and joy of the world. You have learned to navigate it with clarity of mind and heart. This skill will save you in trials yet to come. At the edge of the plain lay a jagged cliff where a dark cavern yawned like a mouth ready to consume the unwary. The stranger stopped. Here lies the cave of lost souls, he said, voice grave. Many who enter are trapped by grief, regret, or unresolved guilt. Only those who remain unmoved by tears can find the path forward. Zaria stepped inside, the cool air of the cavern enveloping her like a blanket of shadows. Faint whispers echoed from the walls, voices of those who had perished, victims of their own emotions or the cruelty of others. Their pleas were heartbreaking, some begging for comfort, others for vengeance. Her pulse quickened, but she did not falter. I will never cry. Deeper in the cavern, she found a pool of black water, reflecting not the ceiling above, but her own fears and past regrets. Shadows formed around her, recreating scenes of humiliation, loss, and betrayal. She relived the boy who shoved her into the river, the villagers who ignored her, and even her own moments of doubt. Each memory sought to break her composure, to draw tears she had long denied. Zaria knelt at the water's edge and whispered softly, naming each sorrow aloud. I see you. I acknowledge your existence, but I will not be consumed. I will endure. She dipped her hands into the black water. Instead of pulling her under, the water shimmered, transforming her reflections into glowing orbs of understanding. The shadows recoiled, fading into nothingness. A figure appeared from the depths, a woman draped in flowing mist, her eyes filled with ancient knowledge. Zaria, you have passed the cave of lost souls. Many have perished here, surrendering to grief. But you have embraced truth without tears. You are ready for the next stage of your journey. The stranger stepped beside her. The cave has revealed your strength, and your purpose. But remember, Zaria, the greatest challenge is not the trials themselves. It is the temptation to use your power for selfish gain. You must walk the next path with humility and wisdom. Emerging from the cavern, Zaria felt a sense of clarity unlike anything before. She understood that tears were not weakness, they were a choice, and she had chosen to face sorrow with courage, to see the world's pain without surrendering to it. This was her gift, her curse, and her destiny. The path after the Cave of Lost Souls led Zaria and the stranger into a forest unlike any she had encountered before. The trees were ancient, gnarled, and twisted, their trunks etched with markings that seemed like names, but no letters she recognized. The leaves shimmered with a faint silver glow, and the air carried a whispering hum, soft but insistent. The stranger said, "This is the forest of forgotten names. Every soul who enters this place leaves a part of themselves behind. Here, you will be confronted by memories that are not your own, by the weight of identities long lost. To walk through, you must recognize them, respect them, yet hold your own self steady. Tears will betray you here." Zaria stepped cautiously, feeling the ground soft under her feet as if the earth itself were alive. As she moved, ghostly figures emerged from the mist, people without faces, their bodies transparent, drifting aimlessly. Each one whispered something she could almost understand. A forgotten mother, a stolen child, a betrayed friend. She realized that these were the names the forest had claimed, souls erased by tragedy or neglect,
forming a chorus of sorrow that threatened to overwhelm her. "Join us. We have forgotten everything but the pain," they murmured. Zaria felt a tremor in her chest, an instinctive desire to flee. Yet she recalled every trial she had endured: the river of truth, the mountain of echoes, the cave of lost souls. She breathed deeply and repeated silently, "I will never cry." Instead of turning away, she began speaking, naming each lost identity aloud, giving them dignity. "I see you. I honor your lives. You are remembered." As she spoke, the silver markings on the trees glowed brighter, and the ghostly figures began to solidify into small, radiant lights that rose and circled her. The stranger watched silently, nodding in approval. "You do not merely resist sorrow, you transform it. That is a power few mortals possess." Hours, or perhaps it was an eternity, passed before Zaria finally reached the heart of the forest. There, a massive tree stood, its trunk wide as a house, leaves shimmering like 1,000 tiny mirrors. Embedded in its bark was a golden plaque inscribed with an ancient script she could now read: "Only those who see, without surrender, may carry the light beyond the shadows." Zaria understood that her journey was no longer about enduring sorrow for herself. It was about understanding the collective grief of the world, acknowledging it, and choosing to rise above it. Her eyes burned with determination. She would carry this light forward. Beyond the forest lay a deep chasm, its depths obscured by swirling mists. Across it stretched a narrow bridge of stone, worn and cracked, suspended by ropes that seemed as fragile as spider silk. The stranger paused. "This is the bridge of broken promises. Many who attempt to cross it are lost to doubt, betrayal, or fear. Every step forces you to confront unfulfilled vows and the lies you or others have told. To survive, you must trust yourself completely and shed no tears." Zaria approached the bridge cautiously. The first plank creaked under her weight, and the mist below seemed to twist into grotesque shapes.
Shadows of people she had once trusted appeared, some accusing, some pleading. Her childhood friend, the boy who had mocked her, appeared first. You will fall. You cannot succeed. Her first instinct was anger, but she forced herself to breathe. Anger would not aid her. She focused on clarity, observing the illusions with the same calm determination she had applied in every trial. I see you, and I forgive what was done, but I will not fall. Step by step, she crossed the bridge. With each plank, another illusion emerged. A teacher who had doubted her potential, a villager who had ignored her mother's warnings, even a reflection of herself, trembling and broken. The bridge shook violently at times, ropes threatening to snap, but Zaria did not flinch. She drew strength from the mantra she had repeated since birth: I will never cry. Midway across, the shadows coalesced into a figure draped in darkness, holding a mirror that reflected her every doubt and fear. Why do you resist emotion? Why do you deny yourself the release of tears? Zaria stared into the mirror, seeing herself not as broken or heartless, but as resilient and perceptive. Tears are not the only form of strength, she replied. I see pain, I understand it, but I do not surrender to it. I will carry the lessons, not the weakness. The shadow recoiled, letting the mirror shatter into fragments that dissolved into mist. The bridge stabilized, and Zaria reached the far side safely. The stranger smiled, a rare warmth in his otherwise solemn demeanor. You do not merely resist sorrow, you transform it. That is a power few mortals possess. After crossing the bridge of broken promises, Zaria and the stranger entered a desert that seemed to stretch into infinity. The sand shimmered with a strange, almost metallic hue under a sun that never fully rose or set. The wind carried whispers, half memories, half threats, and each gust brought with it shadows that danced like living creatures across the dunes. The stranger explained, this is the desert of endless shadows. Here, all the unspoken fears, regrets, and unfulfilled desires of mortals manifest. They feed on doubt and despair. Only one who can endure without tears may pass. Zaria tightened the strap of her small satchel and began walking. Almost immediately, shadows began to coalesce at her feet, forming grotesque shapes that resembled people she had loved and lost. Her mother appeared first, holding out hands that shimmered and dissolved with each step. Why do you endure alone, child? Even a heart that refuses tears must feel sorrow. Her pulse quickened. She wanted to run, to escape the oppressive weight pressing on her chest. But she reminded herself, I will never cry. She focused instead on understanding the shadows, recognizing them for what they were, manifestations of human pain,
Deeper into the
not
desert,
enemies.
the shadows grew more violent, forming massive beasts with glowing red eyes. One lunged at her, and instinctively she leapt aside, the sand giving way beneath her feet. She rolled, rose, and faced the creature without fear. I see you, she said calmly. You are a fragment of grief, not reality. You cannot control me. The beast hesitated, its glowing eyes flickering, then dissipated into the shifting sands. Other shadows followed suit, fading as she acknowledged their existence without surrendering to despair. Hours, or perhaps days, passed in this strange realm. Exhaustion threatened to overtake her, yet she continued, step by step, foot by burning foot, until the desert finally ended at a canyon filled with golden light. There is a rare power in endurance, the stranger said.
Many are consumed here, lost in the shadows of their own hearts. You are stronger than most mortals, Zaria. But do not mistake this strength for invulnerability. The greatest trials still lie ahead. Beyond the canyon, Zaria found herself standing at the entrance of a vast garden. At first, it appeared beautiful, almost idyllic. Trees with crimson leaves swayed gently, flowers bloomed in impossible colors, and birds sang songs that seemed to echo her own heartbeat. Yet, the stranger's voice warned her. This is the garden of illusions. Beauty can deceive, and even the strongest heart may falter here. Every temptation will appear real. Every desire will be magnified. You must remain vigilant, for tears of longing or despair will be your undoing. Zaria stepped forward, mesmerized by the surreal beauty. As she walked, illusions began to form around her. She saw herself returning home to a warm, loving family, embraced by friends she had lost, celebrated for her accomplishments. She heard laughter, felt warmth, smelled the aroma of familiar foods, and even touched textures that reminded her of comfort and safety. A voice called out, "You do not need to endure anymore. Here is the happiness you crave. Take it." The temptation was almost unbearable. Her mind longed for the release of tears, the surrender to joy that felt so tangible in the illusions. But she remembered the promise she had made. "I will never cry." She closed her eyes, focusing not on the illusion, but on her purpose. She imagined the sorrow and suffering of those still trapped in fear and grief. Her heart ached for them, and in that pain, she found strength. When she opened her eyes, the illusions reacted violently. Flowers wilted, birds turned to ash, and the garden's vibrant colors dulled into gray. Shadows emerged, questioning her resolve, asking why she denied herself the sweetness of simple happiness. "Why endure this hardship?" they whispered. Zaria stood firm. "Because I must see the truth. Because the world is not only for my comfort, but for understanding and courage. I will not be swayed by illusions, and I will never cry for an escape that is not real." The shadow shrieked and dissipated, leaving a single radiant tree in the center of the garden. Its bark glowed with a golden light, and in its branches hung a single fruit, shimmering like molten sunlight. The stranger said, "This is the fruit of clarity. Eat, and you will gain insight into all that is hidden, all that has been concealed from mortal eyes. But remember, insight without wisdom is dangerous." Zaria plucked the fruit and bit into it. A flood of visions overtook her, truths of her village, secrets of the forest, the hidden motivations of those around her, and glimpses of possible futures. Pain, hope, fear, and courage intertwined in her mind, yet she did not flinch. She absorbed it all, letting it flow through her like a river, each sensation a lesson in resilience, perception, and foresight. When the visions faded, she was no longer merely a girl who refused tears. She had become a vessel of understanding, capable of seeing the world's pain without being consumed by it. The stranger smiled, for he knew the Garden of Illusions had forged her into someone extraordinary, someone destined to face challenges beyond imagination. Beyond the Garden of Illusions, Zaria found herself at the banks of a wide, slow-moving river. Its waters shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting not just the sky above, but memories, regrets, and hidden truths of every soul that had ever walked along its banks. The stranger stopped and gestured toward the river. "This is the river of reflections," he explained. "It shows not only who you are, but what you could have been and what you may become. Many are lost here, drowning in their own projections. You must step into the water without fear, without tears, and confront your deepest self." Zaria knelt and touched the water. Immediately, 1,000 reflections appeared. She saw herself as a child, vulnerable and alone, standing by the riverbank, shunned by peers, mocked by the cruel whispers of her village. She saw herself grown, wielding power, yet lonely and isolated. She saw futures she could never reach, choices she had made, and mistakes she had yet to make.
Forming shadowy hands that reached toward her. "Cry," they urged, voices overlapping in 1,000 variations. "Let the sorrow free you. You cannot survive without surrender." Zaria felt a twinge of temptation, the faintest urge to release the pent-up grief she had carried since childhood. But she closed her eyes, breathing slowly, grounding herself. "I see you," she whispered to the shadows. "You exist, but you do not control me. I will never cry. I will endure, I will understand, and I will rise." As the words left her lips, the river transformed. The shadows dissolved into sparkling light, and the water became a mirror of clarity. In it, she saw not just herself, but the world around her, the hidden struggles of her village, the suppressed fears of the forest, the silent grief of the people she had yet to meet. She stepped into the river fully. The water rose around her, cold but invigorating, and visions surged through her mind. She saw paths of courage and betrayal, choices of mercy and cruelty, and the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability. She did not flinch, she did not cry. She absorbed the lessons, understanding that mastery over sorrow did not mean absence of feeling, but control, clarity, and wisdom. When she emerged from the river, her hair wet and shimmering with silver light, the stranger nodded. "Few endure the river of reflections without being consumed. You are no ordinary mortal, Zaria. Your journey has forged you into a vessel of insight and courage, but the trials are not yet complete." After leaving the river, Zaria and the stranger traveled into a vast open plain where the tall grass swayed like the ocean and the horizon stretched infinitely. Here, the wind carried more than whispers. It carried footsteps, hundreds of them echoing in every direction. "These are the plains of echoing footsteps," the stranger said. "Each step represents a choice, a regret, a betrayal, or an act of courage that has been taken in the world. Walk carefully. Every step you take will summon visions of paths you have taken and those you have yet to face." Zaria began to walk, each step sending a ripple across the plains. The echoes followed, forming phantom companions, friends who had failed her, strangers who had wronged her, and herself in countless variations. Each echoed version questioned her resolve, tempting her to cry, to give in, to abandon the journey. One phantom, dressed in her own skin, but with eyes full of sorrow, approached her. "Why do you endure alone? No one can bear all the world's pain. You will break. You will cry." Zaria's heart raced, yet she stood tall. "I endure because it must be done. I cry for no one and no thing. I will see the truth, I will understand, and I will never cry. That is my strength and my burden." The plains responded violently. The echoes multiplied, forming a storm of sound and shadow. Whispers, footsteps, and cries intertwined, attempting to overwhelm her senses. Sand and light swirled around her, forming visions of her village being destroyed, her loved ones lost, her future shattered. She could feel the ache in her chest, the pull toward surrender, Yet she remained steadfast. Step by step, she moved through the storm. With each step, the echoes began to diminish, recognizing her unwavering resolve. By the time she reached the center of the plain, the echoes formed a single figure, a majestic silver stag with eyes glowing like molten gold. The stranger spoke, his voice reverent. "This is the guardian of the plains. It appears only to those who have mastered their path through reflection and choice. It will grant you passage to the next trial if you can stand before it without fear, without tears, and without doubt." Zaria approached the stag, her breath steady, her eyes calm. The creature lowered its head and spoke in a voice that resonated through the plains. "Child of no tears, your courage and clarity have brought you here. Know this, the path ahead will test not your body, but your very spirit. Only those who remain unmoved by sorrow and deception will survive." As she mounted the stag, the plains seemed to dissolve beneath them, replaced by a sky filled with stars and swirling constellations. Zaria realized that her journey was no longer bound by the earth. It had become a test of spirit, insight, and destiny itself. And she, the girl who would never cry, was ready for what lay ahead. After soaring above the plains of echoing footsteps on the silver stag, and something metallic, almost like iron. Trees lined the valley, their branches sagging under the weight of glowing orbs. Each orb pulsed faintly, containing images of forgotten dreams, hopes abandoned, promises broken, and aspirations that had never been pursued. "This is the valley of forgotten dreams," the stranger said, his voice grave. "Here, every soul must confront the dreams they let die, the paths they abandoned. Some cannot endure the pain of lost possibilities and break. Only those who walk through without tears
Zaria
can
stepped
claim the
forward.
wisdom hidden
The
here."
first orb floated near her face, showing a memory from her own childhood. She had once wanted to paint the sky, to capture the colors she saw in sunsets and rivers. She had given up, believing she was too dark, too ordinary, too unseen. The orb shimmered and spoke. "You will never see me again unless you embrace what was lost." Her heart ached. For the first time in her life, she felt an almost unbearable longing. Not for herself, but for the lost potential, the unfinished dreams of her own spirit. She wanted to weep, to surrender, but she reminded herself, "I will never cry." Instead, she spoke softly to the orb. "I see you, your colors, your light, your potential. It was never lost. You are part of me, and I carry you forward." The orb pulsed brighter and joined a cluster of other orbs, forming a radiant constellation above her head. As she continued, each orb revealed not just her dreams, but those of strangers, villagers, and people she had never met. She saw hidden talents, untaken journeys, and hopes suppressed by fear or cruelty. Zaria understood that true strength was not only in enduring personal suffering, but also in holding space for the unfulfilled dreams of others. By the time she reached the center of the valley, Zaria was surrounded by a luminous sphere formed from thousands of orbs. The stranger nodded. "Few pass through the valley of forgotten dreams without breaking, without yielding to grief. You have done more than endure. You have absorbed the lost potential of countless lives. That is your gift and your responsibility." From the valley, the stranger led Zaria to a cavern carved into the side of a jagged mountain. Its entrance was framed with obsidian, and inside, the air shimmered like liquid darkness. A massive mirror stretched from floor to ceiling, reflecting not just light, but essence, thoughts, and secrets. "This is the mirror of shadows," the stranger said. It will show you the truth of yourself and the world. It reveals both your potential for greatness and the darkness you could unleash if you falter. Many who face it are consumed by regret, pride, or fear. You must confront your shadow without yielding, without tears, or you will be lost. Zaria stepped before the mirror. Immediately it rippled, showing her reflections she did not recognize. In one, she was a queen, ruling with cruelty, feared by all who served her. In another, she was a beggar, ignored and shunned, crying silently for help. In yet another, she was surrounded by people she had failed, their lives ruined by choices she had made. The mirror then spoke in 1,000 voices simultaneously. Who are you? Are you strong, or are you a fool blinded by pride? Will you embrace the shadow within, or will it devour you? Zaria's pulse raced. Every instinct told her to turn away, to reject the dark versions of herself. Yet she remembered every trial. The river of reflections, the plains of echoing footsteps, the valley of forgotten dreams. She had faced illusions, fears, sorrow, and temptation without surrendering to tears. I will never cry. She took a deep breath and addressed the mirror aloud. I see you. The darkness, the cruelty, the fear, the failure, they are all parts of me. I acknowledge them, I do not reject them, and I do not let them control me. I will endure, I will understand, and I will remain true to my path. The mirror shimmered violently, then calmed. The shadowed reflections dissolved into light, leaving only a single clear image of Zaria, strong, resolute, and unbroken. The stranger stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. You have faced the mirror of shadows and remained unyielding. Many would break here, drowning in regret or temptation. But you have mastered yourself. Remember this, Zaria. Your power is not just in strength, but in balance. The balance of light and shadow, hope and despair, sorrow and courage. Zaria nodded, feeling a warmth bloom inside her chest. She had learned that tears were not weakness, they were a choice. Mastery of oneself meant understanding sorrow and fear, yet never allowing them to control the spirit. And with this understanding, she felt prepared for the trials yet to come. Trials that would push her beyond mortal limits and toward her ultimate destiny. From the mirror of shadows, Zaria and the stranger traveled to a plateau where the wind howled like restless spirits. At the center stood the Temple of Whispering Stones, a structure carved entirely from black stone that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The walls were etched with intricate symbols that pulsed faintly, and every stone hummed with energy, whispering secrets and warnings to those who dared enter. The Temple of Whispering Stones tests knowledge, perception, and courage, the stranger explained. Each stone carries the memory of a life once lived, a choice once made. You must walk its halls and uncover the truth within without succumbing to fear or tears. Those who fail become part of the temple, silent, unseen, forever trapped in stone. Zaria stepped inside. The air was thick, almost suffocating, and the whispers grew louder, forming patterns she could barely follow. Every step she took echoed, and with every echo, the stones displayed visions of her past trials, interwoven with possibilities she had yet to encounter. Some stones showed victories she could never claim, others failures she could not prevent.
Herself, alone, crying in the darkness, surrendering to despair. It moved like a living entity, reaching toward her with hands of shadow. Zaria's chest tightened, her heartbeat thrumming violently. The temptation to cry was intense. Release felt closer than it ever had, but she gritted her teeth and whispered her mantra.
I will never cry. Instead of resisting, she observed. I see you, she said softly. You are part of me, and I will acknowledge your existence without surrendering to you. The vision recoiled, and the whispering stones pulsed in approval. Hours passed, or was it days, while Zaria navigated the twisting corridors, deciphering the whispers, confronting illusions, and naming the truths she saw aloud. By the time she reached the inner sanctum, the stones themselves had stopped whispering, aligning into a perfect circle. In the center lay a crystal pedestal upon which rested a small, radiant orb. This is the orb of insight, the stranger said. It contains wisdom collected from centuries of human experience. With it, you can see the hidden threads that bind people, communities, and even nature itself. But beware, insight without compassion will destroy you. Only a heart that endures sorrow without being consumed can wield this power. Zaria lifted the orb. A wave of understanding surged through her. She saw connections, motives, and truths that others could never perceive. She understood the weight of the trials she had faced and the path that lay ahead. Her strength was not merely physical or mental, it was spiritual, forged in fire, shadow, and clarity. Leaving the temple, Zaria and the stranger entered a dense forest where the canopy blocked nearly all sunlight. But it was not darkness alone that dominated this forest. It was the feeling of being watched. Every leaf, branch, and shadow seemed alive, and countless eyes blinked from the darkness, unblinking, unrelenting. This is the forest of endless eyes, the stranger said. Here you will be observed not only by spirits and creatures, but by the very essence of your own actions. Every decision, every thought, every hidden desire is reflected back to you. The forest tests vigilance, perception, and courage. Tears or hesitation here may be fatal. Zaria's senses sharpened. She moved quietly, noting the flicker of movement in the underbrush and the faint glow of eyes reflecting the faint light. Shadows stretched unnaturally, and whispers echoed through the forest, accusing her of past weaknesses, mocking her resolve, and tempting her with visions of ease and comfort if she gave in. The first challenge came swiftly. A massive stag, its coat black as midnight and eyes glowing crimson, blocked her path. Its presence radiated power and judgment. "Why do you resist emotion?" it asked, its voice deep and reverberating. "Even the strongest hearts must surrender to grief or desire. Do you not fear the consequences of your choices?" Zaria stood firm. "I see the pain, the fear, and the consequences, but surrendering will not help anyone. I will endure, I will understand, and I will never cry." The stag lowered its head, its eyes narrowing as it tested her courage. It lunged, disappearing and reappearing with unnatural speed, trying to unbalance her, force hesitation, provoke fear. Zaria dodged, parried, and met its gaze each time without faltering. Every movement was precise, deliberate, and calm, her mind much sharper than any blade. Finally, the stag stopped. "And few endured the forest of endless eyes," it said. "Fewer still emerge unbroken. You are extraordinary, Zaria, but know this. The trials you have faced so far are merely preparation. The challenges ahead will not test only your strength, but the very essence of your spirit." The forest seemed to acknowledge her endurance. The countless eyes blinked slowly, then vanished, leaving Zaria in calm silence. She realized the truth. Strength without awareness is meaningless. power without understanding leads to ruin. And tears, whether of sorrow or joy, were never the measure of courage. Zaria breathed deeply, feeling the weight of her journey settle in her chest. She was no longer just a girl who would never cry. She was a force forged in trials, insight, and unyielding resolve. Whatever lay ahead, whether danger, betrayal, or the ultimate revelation, she would face it without surrender. Beyond the forest of endless eyes, Zaria and the stranger arrived at a vast lake that shimmered under an ethereal light. Unlike any ordinary body of water, this lake was completely still, its surface smooth like polished glass. Yet the air around it thrummed with quiet energy, and every ripple that formed seemed to carry a message, a secret, a hidden truth. "This is the lake of silent truths," the stranger said. "Here you will confront the reality of every choice, every consequence, and every hidden intent you have ever known. To cross it is to face absolute clarity. Many falter here, overwhelmed by the magnitude of truth. You must absorb it without tears, without despair,
Zaria
and
knelt at the
without
lake's edge.
fear."
The first reflection she saw was of herself in the village, witnessing injustice and cruelty she had ignored. The next ripples revealed visions of her own fears, failures she had avoided confronting, moments of weakness she had hidden even from herself. Then deeper truths emerged, the selfishness, the hidden doubts, the compromises she had made to survive. Each one cut sharply into her mind, demanding acknowledgement. The lake's surface began to glow, forming figures from her past, friends, rivals, and strangers whose lives had intertwined with hers. Each one spoke silently, their lips moving in a strange, hypnotic rhythm, revealing secrets she had never known. The weight of their truths pressed down on her, threatening to shatter her resolve. Zaria's first instinct was to cry, to release the tension and anguish that threatened to consume her. But she closed her eyes, taking a slow, deliberate breath, and whispered her mantra, "I will never cry." Instead of resisting, she observed. She acknowledged each truth, each hidden act, each injustice, and every failure she had witnessed or caused. As she did, the lake shimmered and shifted. The reflections began to align, forming a single radiant vision of herself. Not as the girl who endured, but as a leader, a guide, a force capable of seeing the hidden paths of the world without being destroyed by them. She understood that the lake did not merely test endurance, it revealed potential. The stranger nodded, his face illuminated by the lake's light. Few cross the lake of silent truths without losing themselves to sorrow or anger. You have not only endured, you have emerged with clarity, insight, and the wisdom to wield power responsibly. But the ultimate challenge is yet ahead. Leaving the lake, Zaria entered a vast, jagged plain covered entirely with shards of glass and mirrors, each reflecting fragments of the sky, the ground, and disturbingly, herself. The stranger's voice broke the silence. "These are the plains of shattered mirrors. Here, every illusion, every doubt, and every hidden desire manifests. The ground itself will attempt to deceive you, showing paths that do not exist and futures that may never come. Every reflection is a challenge, and every challenge must be faced without tears." Zaria stepped cautiously, each shard crunching underfoot. The mirrors formed towering walls and twisting corridors reflecting infinite versions of herself. Some smiled, others wept, and some leered with malevolence. Whispers emanated from every shard. "Why do you resist emotion? Why do you deny your nature? One tear, and it is over." She took a deep breath. "I will never cry." Her eyes scanned the mirrors, discerning which reflections were truth and which were falsehoods.
Each time a distorted version of herself lunged forward, she met it with calm acknowledgement. I see you. You are a part of me, but I will not surrender to you. Hours passed as she navigated the shifting corridors of mirrors. She was confronted with visions of betrayal, temptation, and loss. Some mirrors showed the stranger in shadows, accusing her of failing or deceiving her, while others revealed villagers or friends pleading for her surrender. She realized that the planes were designed to break the spirit, to force one to cry, to give up, or to embrace illusions over reality. Yet Zaria persisted. She spoke to each reflection, naming its truth, acknowledging its existence, and letting it pass. By doing so, the mirrors gradually dissolved, revealing a clear path leading to a golden gate at the far end of the plane. The stranger's voice rang out, filled with awe. Few have emerged from the plains of shattered mirrors intact. You have not only endured, you have emerged with clarity, insight, and the wisdom to wield power responsibly. But the ultimate challenge is yet ahead. Zaria stepped forward, heart steady, hand reaching for the gate. For the first time, she felt the weight of destiny pressing upon her. Every trial had prepared her, every sorrow had strengthened her, and every temptation had sharpened her insight. She was no longer merely a girl who refused to cry. She was a force of courage, understanding, and unyielding spirit, ready to confront whatever darkness awaited. Zaria stood before the golden gate at the edge of the plains of shattered mirrors. Its surface was engraved with shifting runes, pulsating faintly like a heartbeat. The stranger's voice carried a warning. This gate leads to the chamber of forgotten fates. Here, you will confront the consequences of actions not yet taken, decisions you have not yet made, and futures that may or may not exist. Many falter, trapped in the fear of what might come. Tears here are fatal. They bind the soul to regret. Zaria's heart raced as she reached for the gate. The moment her hand touched the metal, visions erupted around her. She saw herself failing to protect the people she loved, failing to save villages from calamity, and failing to confront danger she had not yet faced. The scene shifted, sometimes showing triumph, other times devastation, and sometimes futures she could never recognize. "Who are you, if not what you choose to be?" the gate whispered. Its voice was layered, echoing both past and future. Every choice creates 1,000 ripples, one misstep, one tear, and you will be lost
Zaria
to a
clenched
fate
her fists,
not your
drawing
own.
on the strength that had carried her through the river of reflections, the mountain of echoes, and the plains of shattered mirrors. I will never cry. She allowed herself to observe each vision fully, acknowledging the pain, the triumph, the fear, and the uncertainty. She did not resist. She did not turn away. The golden runes on the gate glowed brighter, responding to her courage. As she stepped forward, the gate opened silently, revealing a corridor filled with blinding light. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of destiny, reverberating through her very being. She understood that this was the threshold of her final trials, where every lesson, every test, and every decision she had made would converge. The stranger spoke once more. Remember, Zaria, strength without understanding is empty. Power without compassion is dangerous. The chamber of forgotten fates will demand everything from you. Heart, mind, and spirit. Step forward with clarity. Zaria nodded, feeling the weight of destiny pressing upon her. She was no longer merely the girl who refused to cry. She was a force shaped by trials, insight, and unyielding resolve. Whatever lay ahead, she was ready. The corridor opened into a vast circular chamber. The walls were covered with mirrors. Not ordinary ones, but reflective surfaces that shimmered with the essence of lives unlived, choices unmade, and potential paths forever altered. In the center floated a sphere of light, radiating warmth and power. The air was thick with energy, and whispers of the future echoed endlessly, forming a symphony of possibility. This chamber contains every forgotten fate, every path not taken, every word unspoken, every choice avoided. It is all here. To pass, you must confront these without yielding to fear, despair, or tears. Many enter and are trapped forever, consumed by regret. Zaria approached the sphere, her reflection fracturing in the surrounding mirrors. Each reflection whispered doubts. You cannot succeed. You are too small, too young, too fragile. One misstep, one tear, and it is over. She took a deep breath, closing her eyes. I will never cry. She opened them again, seeing each reflection clearly and naming its fear aloud. I see you. You are part of possibility, not reality. I acknowledge you, but I do not surrender to you. The chamber responded. The mirrors vibrated and shimmered, some cracking, others dissolving into mist. She stepped closer to the sphere, and it began to show her visions, not of the past or present, but of futures, some bright and filled with hope, others dark and filled with despair. She saw herself leading, guiding, protecting, and confronting threats she had not yet imagined. Then one vision attacked, showing a world consumed by sorrow, with villages destroyed and innocence lost. Her heart ached at the scene, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. The instinct to cry rose like a tidal wave. Zaria shut her eyes, grounding herself in every lesson she had learned. She focused on understanding, not surrender. I see the pain, she whispered, but I will endure. I will act, and I will never cry. The sphere pulsed, releasing a wave of radiant energy that swept across the chamber. The mirrors shattered into stardust, revealing a clear path to a final door at the far side of the chamber. Zaria felt a profound clarity. She had faced every possible regret, fear, and doubt without yielding. Her spirit had been tempered by trials, sharpened by insight, and purified by courage. The stranger placed a hand on her shoulder. You have endured what few could even imagine. Beyond that door lies the final revelation of your journey. Step forward, Zaria, and claim your destiny. Zaria inhaled deeply, feeling the culmination of her journey settle in her chest. The trials, the shadows, the illusions, the whispers, all had forged her into someone extraordinary. She was ready to face what lay beyond, the ultimate test of courage, wisdom, and resolve. Beyond the shattered mirrors of the Chamber of Forgotten Fates, Zaria faced a colossal door carved from a single piece of obsidian. Its surface shimmered with an inner light, forming shifting patterns that seemed to pulse like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The stranger stepped back, his expression solemn. This is the door of destiny. It will not only test your courage, but your very essence. Behind it lies the final trial, where all you have learned, endured, and mastered will be challenged. Many have reached this point and faltered, their tears binding them to failure forever. To open this door, you must confront your deepest fear and emerge unbroken. Zaria placed her hands on the door, feeling a surge of energy flow through her. The pattern shifted violently, revealing visions of herself, alone, abandoned, powerless, or consumed by despair. The whispers of the trials that she had endured echoed in her mind, mingling with new doubts. Are you truly ready? Can you bear the weight of destiny? Her first instinct was fear. The visions were overwhelming, the energy of the door pressing against her spirit. But she remembered every mantra, every lesson, and every trial. I will never cry.
She did not see fear. She saw clarity. She saw the cumulative power of all she had endured, the river of reflections, the forest of endless eyes, the plains of shattered mirrors, and the chamber of forgotten fates. Every challenge had forged her, tempered her, and revealed her strength.
The door pulsed, resonating with her resolve. She whispered, "I am ready. I have endured. I see the truth. I understand, and I will never cry." With a blinding flash, the door slowly swung open, revealing a vast chamber filled with radiant light. The energy of the room was overwhelming, yet instead of fear, Zaria felt profound understanding. She realized that this was not just a test. It was an awakening, a chance to confront not only destiny, but the essence of her own soul. Stepping into the chamber, Zaria found herself on a platform surrounded by a sea of light. At the center rested a magnificent throne carved from crystal, pulsating with energy that mirrored the rhythm of countless hearts. The throne was said to hold the power to witness, influence, and guide the fates of many. Yet only those who had mastered sorrow without surrender could approach it. "This is the throne of echoing hearts," the stranger said. "It is the culmination of all trials, the seat where courage, insight, and compassion converge. To claim it, you must listen to the echoes of all who have suffered and endured. You must understand without being overwhelmed and act without yielding to despair." As Zaria approached, the light coalesced into visions of every life she had touched or observed, every soul connected to the trials she had faced. She saw villagers she had once feared would never understand her strength, strangers whose hidden dreams had inspired her resolve, and even reflections of herself in moments of weakness. Each echo called to her, urging surrender, tears, or defiance. She knelt before the throne, listening intently. The echoes spoke not just of sorrow, but of hope, courage, and the quiet power of perseverance. Zaria felt the weight of every soul pressing upon her, the collective memory of countless lives merging with her own. The temptation to cry rose, but she steadied herself, focusing on comprehension rather than release. "I will never cry." With that mantra, she allowed the echoes to flow through her, naming each sorrow and triumph, each fear and hope, acknowledging them without yielding. The throne pulsed, brightening until the entire chamber seemed to vibrate with life. Light poured into Zaria not as punishment, but as recognition. She had endured every trial, mastered her fear, and transformed sorrow into understanding. The stranger's voice broke through the brilliance. "You have done what no mortal could endure. You have mastered sorrow, insight, and courage. You are ready to claim your destiny. But remember, power carries responsibility. The throne is not a reward. It is a duty to guide, to protect, and to endure. Will you accept it?" Zaria rose, her eyes steady and unwavering. She approached the throne, laying her hands upon it. A surge of clarity, vision, and understanding coursed through her, revealing not only the world's hidden struggles, but also her capacity to shape outcomes with compassion and wisdom. She was no longer the girl who had only refused to cry. She was a force of guidance, insight, and endurance. As she seated herself, the chamber seemed to dissolve, replaced by a panoramic vision of her village, the forests, rivers, mountains, and plains she had traversed. Every life she had touched, every shadow she had faced, every truth she had acknowledged, it was all connected. And Zaria understood that tears were not weakness. They were unnecessary when the spirit had chosen to endure and transform sorrow into clarity. Beyond the throne of echoing hearts,
The chamber dissolved into a vast open sky where thunderclouds roared and lightning cracked across the heavens. Zaria found herself standing on a narrow pathway suspended in midair, stretching into the heart of a storm that seemed alive. The stranger's voice echoed above the roar. This is the trial of the heartless storm. It tests courage, composure, and the endurance of the spirit. The storm will strike your fears, doubts, and every temptation to despair. Many are swept away by tears here, never to return. Only those who endure without yielding may reach the eye of the storm and claim mastery over themselves. The wind tore at her, carrying screams, whispers, and visions of failure. She saw villages in flames, friends betraying her, herself drowning under the weight of sorrow. Each bolt of lightning illuminated these fears, making them real and immediate. Her body trembled, her heart pounded, but she reminded herself, I will never cry. Step by step, she advanced, the storm raging around her, trying to push her from the path. Each surge was a test of clarity. Each gust threatened to overwhelm her mind with despair. Yet Zaria held steady, facing the storm without flinching, acknowledging the fears without letting them dominate her spirit. The eye of the storm arrived, a calm center filled with radiant light. Here, the stranger said, you have endured every tempest, every fear, and every shadow. You are no longer tested by sorrow or illusions. Here lies mastery of your own heart. But mastery is not the end. It is preparation for responsibility.
Feeling the power of endurance and insight coursing through her. The storm no longer raged. It bowed to her courage, recognizing the girl who would never cry as someone capable of facing the world's darkest truths without surrender. From the eye of the storm, a pathway of light descended into a hall of towering statues. Each figure represented a king, queen, or leader forgotten by time, their faces carved with solemn expressions. Zaria realized she had entered the chamber of the forgotten kings, where history's lost leaders whispered their lessons. These are the rulers who have failed or been forgotten, the stranger said. They will test your wisdom, judgment, and understanding. You must walk among them, speak truth to their echoes, and emerge with the knowledge to guide others without being consumed by pride or fear. The statues stirred as Zaria approached. One king's shadow spoke first. Why should we teach you? You are but a girl. Zaria lifted her chin. I have endured what few could. I have faced illusions, storms, reflections of fear and sorrow. I have walked through shadows without tears. I will listen, learn, and guide, not for glory, but for understanding. Each figure presented a riddle, a moral dilemma, or a vision of a world in chaos. Zaria listened and responded, combining wisdom with courage. When faced with visions of betrayal or temptation, she acknowledged them without faltering. When confronted with illusions of power and dominance, she refused to be swayed. The forgotten kings nodded in unison. Few have emerged from the chamber with understanding, balance, and clarity. You have proven yourself capable of leadership, guidance, and endurance. But know this, the true trial lies not in survival, but in what you choose to do with your knowledge. As Zaria exited the hall, a dark figure appeared, taller than any she had faced, its form constantly shifting. Its presence exuded despair, rage, and temptation. The stranger whispered, "This is the shadow of the unbroken, the final test of your will. It will show you everything you could lose, every failure you could face, and every fear you have yet to confront. if it touches you, it will shatter your resolve and bind you to despair forever. The shadow lunged, showing visions of her village in ruin, friends lost, and herself broken. Its voice was everywhere, whispering, "One tear, one moment of weakness, and it is over. You cannot endure." Zaria stood her ground, feeling her mantra solidify within her. "I will never cry." She embraced the shadow, seeing it not as an enemy, but as the embodiment of fear and sorrow itself. She acknowledged it, absorbed its energy, and let it pass through her without succumbing. The shadow howled, then dissolved into radiant light. Zaria realized that it had tested her, not to destroy her, but to teach her mastery over her own fears. She had faced every trial, endured every torment, and emerged unbroken. With the shadow gone, the landscape transformed. Rivers of golden light flowed across forests and plains, mountains gleamed with brilliance, and the skies shimmered with the colors of dawn and dusk combined. Zaria felt an awakening in her very being, a fusion of every lesson, every insight, and every trial she had endured. The stranger spoke, now smiling. "You have walked paths no mortal could. You have faced illusions, storms, reflections, and shadows. You have refused tears not out of denial, but out of mastery. Now, Zaria, you ascend, not as a girl who endures, but as a force of clarity, courage, and wisdom. Your journey is complete, and your purpose begins." Zaria looked around, seeing her village, her people, and the lands she had traversed. She understood the interconnectedness of every life, every sorrow, and every joy. Her heart was filled not with tears, but with insight, resolve, and compassion. Zaria returned to her village, transformed. She was no longer just a girl who endured cruelty and hardship. She was a leader, a guide, and a protector. She taught others to see fear without surrender, to understand sorrow without being consumed, and to act with courage and wisdom. Her people celebrated not the power she wielded, but the clarity she brought. Her story became a folktale whispered by generations. The girl who faced impossible trials, who mastered sorrow, and who refused to cry, yet touched countless lives with courage, insight, and compassion. Zaria's final realization resonated in her heart. Tears were not weakness, but unnecessary when the spirit chose endurance, understanding, and action. The mantra that had guided her through every trial remained etched in her soul. "I will never cry." And in that strength, the world changed, not through might or magic alone, but through the unwavering spirit of one extraordinary girl who faced shadows, storms, and sorrow, and emerged radiant, wise, and unbroken.